It's always great to catch up with a medical expert like Dr. Stephen Thomas. We get to do so often, an infectious disease specialist at Upstate University Hospital. Dr. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, doesn't matter if you're a doctor, journalist, you look at our Unicast score, that's kind of how we have been gauging social distancing. We're at a D+ right now. In the last 3 days, we've gone, as the county executive said, backwards in our community spread. I think it's been 22, 21, and 18 in some kind of order there. Does it concern you?
Yes, it does, because we know that one of the main weapons that we have against interrupting transmission of SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that causes COVID-19, is physical distancing. And we also know that, because we've looked at these numbers, that the Unicast scores are associated with cases that we then see, 5 to 7 days later. So the concern is that as people relax in their physical distancing posture, that we're going to see more infections, and we're going to see more cases, and all of that ground that we gained when we were back at a C or a B or a B+, that we're going to lose that ground.
So we see people in masks right here. So are people wearing them enough? Do we still get it? Do we need a reminder? I know the county executive, the governor, drive it home every day, but do we need to do that again, that it's so important and critical to wear those masks?
I do think it's important. Masks are part of, and we've discussed this before, masks are part of a larger bundle of things that people can do to protect themselves and to protect other people. And so whenever you're going to be within 6 feet of somebody, or even potentially within 6 feet of somebody that is not part of your family unit, so not part of the people that you've been sheltering in place with, then you really should be wearing a mask. And you should always be washing your hands before and after any of those potential engagements. You should always be trying to have good respiratory hygiene, so a cough or a sneeze into your sleeve and then wash your hands. And again, if you're ill, you really should contact your medical professional. You should not be putting yourself around other people.
Well, we certainly know that the nice weather that we saw, especially this past weekend, is great for us to get out, kind of stretch our legs a little bit, maybe for our own mental stability. But is there any evidence anywhere as to weather playing a factor with this virus at all? Is good weather going to knock that virus down at all? Is there any evidence of that?
Right. Yeah, no, this is a good question, and a lot of people are asking it. So we certainly see seasonality with lots of other respiratory viruses. And so you got to think of it in two ways. Is there a direct effect of heat, humidity, and sunlight on the virus, or is it just that when things get warm, people start kind of naturally physically distancing themselves from one another because they're outside, doing different activities? As it relates to SARS-CoV-2, there is some evidence in the laboratory that higher temperatures or humidity could decrease the lifespan of the virus. But the authors of those experiments, and I would certainly caution people to not directly apply that to the real life situations, which is individuals in a number of different scenarios coming in contact with one another, and the other factors that can translate into somebody who's infected passing the virus to somebody who's not infected. The last point I would say on that is that some of the largest increase in cases in the planet right now, places like Brazil, Peru, India, those are warm and very humid places. So I would just be a little bit measured in how you interpret that data.
Help me understand this. We report this often when we talk about deaths from COVID-19, and we say they suffered from an underlying medical condition, as if it could be potentially very serious, but I almost wonder if it gives a false sense of security to people to think like, well, I'm kind of healthy, so even if I get it, I'm not at risk to death. What do we say when we mean underlying medical conditions? What's that range?
Yeah, so it could be anything from hypertension to kidney problems. It could be COPD. It could be people with asthma, diabetes, people with rheumatologic disorders like lupus or rheumatoid arthritis. So it is very clear that people who are older and people who have more underlying medical conditions are at increased risk for getting severe COVID if they're infected, for ending up in a hospital, and from dying from COVID disease. There's no question about that. But I will say, to your point, we also see a number of young people, people that don't have some of these underlying medical conditions. They are also getting severely ill, and in smaller numbers, but it still occurs, they are also dying from this disease. And then the last point is, it's not just about you getting infected and how you're going to do. It's you getting infected and then potentially transmitting it to someone else who may be in that higher risk category. And it could be somebody in your family or your extended family, or even a stranger for that matter. We really should not be taking any comfort in the fact that we're young or we don't have any other medical problems, because again, it could still work out very poorly for you.
I'm going to sneak one last one in for you. So we just heard from Crouse that they're going to try to restart what they've classified elective surgeries on May 7th, so in a few days from now. How's Upstate looking? And you and I were talking a little bit earlier, elective kind of in quotes, right?
Yeah, so what Upstate is doing right now is, you have to remember, when we were preparing to respond to the pandemic, when we were putting together surge plans, when we were getting ready for lots and lots of cases, we had to take people that had medically necessary procedures and surgeries that needed to be done, and we had to delay them, and it was safe to delay them. So now it's been a couple of months, and now those people that had those procedures delayed, it's time to start doing those procedures again. So that's what we're thinking through now, is those people that have medically necessary and time-sensitive procedures, how can we safely bring them into our hospital, do those procedures that they need without endangering them or the staff or the community.
Dr. Stephen Thomas, you know I could talk to you all day about this stuff, but I'm going to have to wrap here. Thank you so much for joining us again. I'm sure we'll talk to you really soon.
I hope so. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Doc. For everything you need to know about the coronavirus, including symptoms and prevention, download the News Channel 9 app or go to localsyr.com. Click on the coronavirus banner on the homepage.